the reporter asked him specifically what he thought about a federal judge saying that he signed this proclamation to use this wartime act against this Venezuelan gang in the dead of darkness, and whether or not he should have more transparency specifically around this proclamation and these deportation flights. Here's what the president said to that question.
We want to get criminals out of our country, number one, and I don't know when it was signed because I didn't sign it. Other people handled it. But Marco Rubio's done a great job, and he wanted them out, and we go along with that. We want to get criminals out of our country. But the concept of getting bad people, murderers, rapists, drug dealers, all of these are really some bad people out of our country. I ran on that. I won on that.
Now, it was confusing when the president said he did not sign the proclamation because the Federal Registry showed a signature of Donald Trump on that proclamation. When I pushed the White House about that and asked about this, a White House official sent me a White House statement that said this in part. It's from the White House Communications Director, Stephen Chung. He says, President Trump was obviously referring to the original Alien Enemies Act that was signed in 1798. The recent executive order was personally signed by President Trump invoking the Alien Enemies Act that designated Tren de Aragua as a foreign terrorist organization in order to apprehend and deport these heinous criminals. So the White House and that staffer, of course, that communications director, essentially saying that the president wasn't talking about the law that was signed 200 years ago. I think most people didn't realize that the president was going to be talking about the law that was signed 200 years ago. But that's the White House's stance, and they are sticking to it. I've pressured them and pushed them on whether or not there's more of an explanation, Alex, and that's what they're saying.
Come on, is all I have to say to that. You don't have to comment. I just did it for you. Thank you very much. So let's bring in Christy Greenberg, MSNBC legal analyst and former federal prosecutor, and Shelby Talcott, White House reporter for Semaphore. Thank you, ladies, for joining us. What do you, Shelby, know about this back and forth? I mean, it's odd that he would think the question was about the 1798 Act and whether or not he had signed that.
Yeah, you've heard, I mean, you just heard what the White House's argument is, and we've heard Donald Trump sort of say strange things before, but by and large, this is could be really tough for him because he just said this. There's an ongoing legal battle. Almost certainly this is going to become involved in that legal battle. And it kind of muddies the waters in terms of the White House's argument here. And so it's going to be really interesting to see over the next few days how that plays out in the courts, because certainly Donald Trump's words are going to be used against him here.
Christy, what is the significance of him signing it, him not signing it, if it was an auto pen potentially?
Well, his explanation to start with doesn't make a lot of sense because he not only said he didn't sign it, but he said he had other people handling it for him, I believe. Well, if he was talking about the 1798 proclamation, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So yeah. I share your skepticism that, in fact, he was talking about his executive order and not the 1798 order. But you know, the law is clear that the president actually needs to sign off on any executive orders related to, to invoke the proclamation. So whether or not that's by auto pen or not, I don't see as an issue as long as he's, signing it or directing somebody else to have his signature on the proclamation. I think that's all that's required. This auto pen issue is an issue that the Trump administration has brought up to attack some of the Biden pardons. I don't really think there's a there as long as there is a presidential signature that the president is authorized. I think that's more than sufficient. But the question will be,